Well, motorsport fans awaiting news on the condition of Jules Bianchi, the Frenchman driving for the Marussia side, the Marussia team, who was involved in a very, very serious incident at the Japanese Grand Prix. And Thomas Maher of FormulaSpy.com joins me on the line. Thomas, just give us an idea of the background to the incident yesterday that has left this very talented driver in a very serious condition in hospital.
Well, the race was run literally under a cloud all weekend. There's been a typhoon approaching Japan for the last couple of days called Typhoon Fanfone. And the typhoon was expected to hit on Sunday afternoon during the race. But the race organisers were reluctant to move the race time back earlier on in the day. So in the end, it ended up going ahead as scheduled at the normal time under heavy rain conditions. And the race was red flagged after just one lap, which means the race was stopped while they waited the rain. But it resumed about 20-25 minutes later, and the race ran under a kind of damp conditions for the entire race. But in the closing 10-15 laps, the rain started to intensify as it got dark. One driver went off, a guy called Adrian Sutil for Sauber went off and crashed, and he was completely uninjured, but a recovery digger came out to remove the broken car from the barriers, and another car coming around on the next lap, Jules Bianchi, he lost control. There's rumours he couldn't see how wet it was after getting because of the increasing darkness, and he speared off and went straight under the digger. And Formula 1 cars are not designed to impact with anything that isn't supposed to be on the track.
Indeed, and this is a very unusual incident because cars go off all the time, but for two cars to go off in almost the same position and to hit a recovery vehicle, has that ever happened before? It's very nearly
happened on several occasions in just two races I can remember in particular. The 2007 European Grand Prix at the Nürburgring saw very similar circumstances. Something like 5 or 6 cars went off at the first corner when a similar kind of monsoon hit the track. And while diggers were out on track, cars were going straight off and coming dangerously near them. There was no impact on that day. But on another day, back in 2003 at the Brazilian Grand Prix, Michael Schumacher was nearly decapitated when a very similar circumstance happened. Cars were going off at a particular corner. A digger was out on track. Michael Schumacher went off and hit the barrier just beside the recovery digger. So it's not like this possibility has not been there. I have plenty of questions to answer after this.
Now, there's always huge cameras, there's always huge focus, but there is no video footage available of the incident. Is that a decision made by the FIA, or was it just the fact that the cameras just didn't pick it up?
Well, I know the TV coverage never picked up on it, which was completely deliberate. I wasn't even aware there had been a crash until the end of the race, and I would normally be very, very up to date with what's going on, watching live timings and stuff like that outside of TV coverage. But the reason there is no video footage is a very deliberate ploy from the FIA. They're the governing body of the sport. When they saw the crash happening, obviously they have a lot of TV feeds, a lot of TV cameras to choose what to show to the world. FIA representative Mick Asalo said they saw the accident happen and immediately ordered FOM, which is Formula 1 Management, not to show the footage. Do not show this footage live. And that's why we never saw any of the footage. And the FIA have got a full replay of the incident, and they said they will not release it at this moment anyway.
Is there going to be pressure on the organisers of the Japanese Grand Prix and questions being asked about why maybe they didn't stop the race or why they allowed the race to continue in really very, very heavy conditions? It got very, very dark, and I suppose were they that close to the end of the race that they thought they could get away with it?
It's a very difficult one because the drivers themselves, apart from one or two, have all said that they felt the conditions were okay for racing in. They said there was nothing unusual about the level of rain that they were experiencing. But in terms of the amount of light they had remaining, well, it was getting a little bit too close, I think, to dark for a race that isn't supposed to be run in the dark. The drivers need to see how much water there is on track, and with fading light, they're not really going to be able to do that. I think there was pressure put on the teams and drivers to remain on schedule and have the race at 3 p.m. local time, which is too late in the day for Japan in monsoon season. there's serious questions to be asked at the FIA as to why they didn't put the interests of the drivers and teams over their commercial interests.
Now, the Marussia team have asked for patience and understanding today in relation to Bianchi's condition. What kind of driver is he, and I suppose what's his talent like? Is he somebody that could perhaps be challenging for world titles if he was in the right car?
Well, annoyingly enough, or ironically enough, I suppose you might say, only 3 days ago I actually put up an article on the website about how Jules Bianchi might be ready to step up to Ferrari next year. He's part of the Ferrari Young Driver Academy. He's one of the most highly rated young men on the grid. He's been tipped to replace Fernando Alonso at Ferrari. Now, in the end, that didn't happen, but he has been tipped to replace Fernando Alonso at Ferrari if the Spaniard was to move on. And now it looks as though he'll be lucky to have his life, let alone his career.
And finally, Thomas, what is the update on his condition? Obviously, he's had serious surgery on his skull, and I guess in terms of a head injury, it could be very much a wait and see for not just days but perhaps weeks.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. His father has told French media that his son has suffered a subdural hematoma. There's no official confirmation of that, but I'm sure his father has no reason to lie about it. The implication at this point is that he is set to undergo further surgery, apparently for bleeding internally in the brain, and for this moment in time there are no updates officially from anyone. It's all purely speculation, apart from the initial report which said 2 head injuries, and no updates will be released until the family have all been told and gotten to speed. They're still en route to Japan.